Okay, I think we are ready to go. Good to have you back with us by way of video. Those of you that are watching um, in the Bible study later on, but we're glad you're here. We have a number that are with us again today. We'll continue on. Let's take our Bibles to the book of Exodus, and I'd like us to pick up with chapter 31. And we are really getting into the last of the uh, events that take place on Mount Sinai. Now remember, Moses had led the children of Israel out of Egypt, crossed the Red Sea, and then they went to Mount Sinai. Now while they're at Mount Sinai is when he gets the law, the Ten Commandments. And while he's on the Mount Sinai, the Mount of the Lord, he's going to be there. Does anybody know how long he will be there? Yeah, just guess, 40 days, because that seems to be the guess of how long things take sometimes. Jesus was in the wilderness and tempted the devil 40 days. Moses on Mount Sinai, 40 days. So yeah, it was 40 days and 40 nights. He did not eat or drink. We have that in Numbers. We can find that. And so Moses is there. And how do you survive 40 days without food? Well, people fast that long from time to time. But what about water? And so that has to be the Lord doing that. And so he's there. God is speaking with him. He's already given him all of the information about the tabernacle, about the works of the tabernacle, how sacrifices, all the furniture, all of that is part of it. So take a look at your notes there. Chapter 31, we'll go back to there in verse 31. Chapter 31, verses 1 through 11. God is going to give Moses now, I've given you all of the details of what I want, but who's going to do it? Who has the ability to build this stuff? Like we talked before about God making the garments. You know, they have to be perfect. The tabernacle is going to have to be built just the right way. Everything put together, the gold, and all that's going to be happening as far as the furniture is concerned. So in chapter 31, God is telling Moses, I am going to put my spirit on certain people. Take a look at verse 1. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, See, I have called by name Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Judah. Now, isn't it interesting? Remember, Aaron had two, remember the story about Moses whenever he was fighting with the Ammonites. Joshua was down there. Moses' arms were up in the sky. And as long as his hands were up, then he won the battle. Who were the two guys holding up Moses' arms? Aaron and Hur, H-U-R. So Aaron is of the tribe of Levi. Hur is of the tribe of Judah. So that's interesting. So you have Hur and Aaron holding up his arms. Now notice what he says here about Bezaleel, verse 2. Here's Bezaleel, the son of Uri, the son of who? Hur of the tribe of Judah. Hur is very well known, okay? Just like Aaron is. In all the tribe of Israel, the millions that are there, you have Moses and his older brother Aaron, and now there's Hur, the guy that's with Aaron, leading the way. And so Moses is up in this mountain, and it's Aaron and Hur who are basically running the camp while Moses is gone. Keep that in mind. So Moses is told, I'm going to take the son of Hur, Bezaleel, and I'm going to put my spirit. Look at verse 3. I filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom and understanding and in knowledge and in all manner of workmanship, to devise cunning works, to work in gold and in silver and in brass, cutting of stones, to set them, and in carving of timber, to work in all manner of workmanship. So he's given this man, Bezaleel, the wisdom of God to be able to build this tabernacle the way God wants it built. All of the artifacts, all of the furniture, everything is supposed to be done, prescribed by God, and God says, I will give him my spirit. So verse 6, I have given with him, so there's others to help him. Verse 6, Aholiab, the son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan. And in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted, I put wisdom that they may make all that I have commanded thee. So now again, this is a big order. I want you to build this. You can't do it on your own. I'm going to put my spirit on them, and they will build it. And so when you see this tabernacle, it is the work of God. It's not man taking God's blueprints, trying to interpret this and fix it. No, God says, listen, I'm going to put my spirit on these men, and they will do it exactly the way that I say. And that's something. So that's another element of this whole tabernacle that we've got to keep in mind, that this was from the Lord himself. Okay. So verse 7, the tabernacle of the congregation, the ark, the mercy seat, all the furniture. Verse 8, the table, the candlestick, the altar of incense. Verse 9, the burnt offering, all the furniture, the laver, the foot. And verse 10, there it is, the clothes, holy garments, the garments of his son. Verse 11, even the anointing oil and the sweet incense. All of this, I'm going to put my spirit on these men. And obviously, not just those three men, but he also says all those who have, go back to verse 6, was it? And in the hearts of all that are wise-hearted, I have put wisdom. Meaning, he's got many. So he's going to put his spirit on many people, and they're going to be the ones that do this. Okay? So this is a very, very important thing. So all of this is going on. Now, God just told you to build a tabernacle. God just told you to do all this work. Work, 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 work. Okay, let's get to work. Let's get this done. The idea, if you're like me, when I get a project in my mind, I kill myself until it's done. I just do not like to draw things out. I mean, I will work night and day until I get that project built. You know what I'm talking about? Ron? That's why Ron hadn't gone home. He's down here all this time. I'm the same way. We just, you want to get it done. Well, what God says now is very, very important. After he told them, I want all this done. You got people to do it. But, look at the next passage, verse 12. Don't forget to keep the Sabbath. In all of your working, in all of your labor, do not forget to stop working on the Sabbath day. And that's what this is all about in verse 13 and following. He says, speak also unto the children of Israel, saying, verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you. Sorry about that. That was spam. Who is spam? I get that guy all the time. Okay. So verily my Sabbaths ye shall keep, for it is a sign between me and you throughout your generations, that you may know that I am the Lord that sanctify you. So notice what he says what the Sabbath is all about. There he says the Sabbath is a sign, right? It's a sign between me and you. So when you keep the Sabbath, it is a sign that says, I have a God, and I have a God that loves me. And verse 13, the last part says, I sanctify you. So my Sabbath is a picture, a sign that we have a covenant, and I take my day off. I take a day off of my 7 days, and I rest because it's a sign that I am going to be in relation with my God. I'm going to worship my God. So Saturday is very, very important to me as far as the Sabbath day was concerned back then. So verse 15, 6 days you can work, but that seventh is a Sabbath of rest. Whosoever doeth any work, he shall surely be put to death. And he says this will be a covenant, verse 16, throughout your generations. This is supposed to be something that you do perpetually, not just one Saturday, but every Saturday from here on out. Thought I heard somebody at the door. Okay? So this is very important. Now look at your note there about the Sabbath, number 2 in your study sheet there, about the Sabbath. Now I want you to get something in mind. There is a movement these days where some religions are teaching that we should ourselves as Christians keep the Sabbath. Okay, we're supposed to keep the Sabbath. I know that the Seventh-day Adventists, that's in their writings. They actually teach that. Those that are the part of the Antichrist movement are those who worship on Sunday. I have that in writing. It's just ridiculous. There's also what's called Seventh-day Baptists that are out there. They worship on Saturday, and they have all this laid out why they do that. The Scriptures simply do not teach that for us, okay? So I've given you some verses. Let's take a look at these real quick, okay? So look at Romans chapter 14. For those of you watching by way of the video, turn over to Romans chapter 14. And remember again, if God wanted us to worship on Saturday, He would have been very, very clear about the day. He would have said we should worship on the seventh day. He didn't say that. Remember again, the Sabbath day was a day of rest anyway. When they had their feast days, when they had their other things, sometimes it was on a Sabbath, but not always. It didn't always fall on a Saturday. The Passover was not always on the Saturday. It was the first of the month. So was that a Saturday? Well, it could have been, but maybe not. So you understand that the Sabbath was always a rest day, not necessarily a worship day, although it's important that you kind of rest and worship the Lord in your heart. It wasn't necessarily the day that you do all of your spiritual stuff. So that's one thing. But also, when you come to the New Testament, what does God tell us? And He never told us that we're supposed to worship, have our day on Saturday when we go to church and so forth. And that's what people are saying. Go ahead, Ron.
Didn't when a particular feast day or celebration, if you will, of the Jews fell on a Sabbath, then it became high.
That's exactly right. It became a high Sabbath because it was a feast day which fell on a Sabbath day. Okay, so there's a difference there. Now take a look at Romans chapter 14. In verse 4, Paul is now writing to a Gentile church where there are some Jewish people, and he says, "Who art thou that judgest another man's servant? To his own master he standeth or falleth, yea, he shall be holden up, for God is able to make him stand. One man esteemeth one day above another." Okay, one man says this day is better than another day. That's what the Jewish people did. Saturday's the day. Another esteemeth every day is alike. Let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. He that regardeth the day, regardeth it unto the Lord. That's fine. If you want to say this is a special day, fine. He that regardeth not the day, to the Lord he doth not regard it. He that eateth, eateth to the Lord, for he giveth God thanks. He that eateth not to the Lord, eateth not and giveth God thanks. For none of us liveth to himself, and no man dieth to himself. For whether we live unto the Lord. Whether we die unto the Lord. Whether we live or therefore or die, we are the Lord's. For this end Christ both died and rose, revived, that he might be Lord both of the dead and living. But why dost thou judge thy brother? So, if you want to worship on Saturday, fine. Have your church service on Saturday. I don't care. The Bible doesn't say if you should worship on Sunday. We worship on Wednesday. We have a church service on Wednesday. Does the Bible talk about that? No. It doesn't talk about that at all. Does it talk about specifically on Sunday? Well, there's an indication it talks about the first day of the week, but it's not a mandate. So if you want to say we're going to have our church service on Saturday, that's fine. But don't be self-righteous about it and say this is the only day we're supposed to do this, and you Baptists, you need to be Seventh-day Baptists. You're being self-righteous. And you're building a whole doctrine or a practice upon an assumption that's just simply not made in the Scriptures. Okay? Let me show you another one. This is Colossians Chapter 2. And again, it's almost like you're trying to go back to the law, which is a problem for me. Well, we need to keep the law, and it says even the Sabbath is before the law. So, hey, God said the Sabbath to Adam and Eve. On the seventh day you rest. So that's before the law. So we all supposed to be keeping that, right? Well, not necessarily, because what we're going to find is our Lord Jesus Christ is our Sabbath rest, is what Hebrews says. So when we enter into Christ, we are entering into the sign of the Sabbath. Remember, the Sabbath is a sign. So if it's a sign, when I trust Christ as my Savior, I am entering into a Sabbath rest. That is the picture now with Christ. So in the New Testament, do I need to keep that Sabbath? Not necessarily. Okay? So take a look at Colossians Chapter 2, verse 13. You being dead in your sins, and the uncircumcision of your flesh, hath he quickened together with him, having forgiven you all trespasses. Verse 14, blotting out the handwriting of ordinances that was against us. Verse 15, spoiled principalities and powers. Verse 16, let no man therefore judge you in meat, or in drink, or in respect of a holy day, or of the new moon, or of the Sabbath days. It actually says it right there. Don't let anybody judge you in respect of the Sabbath days. Does that make sense?
Does the Seventh-day Adventists not have this part?
It's like any false doctrine that's always twisted. Okay,
Yeah.
it's right there, and so I simply say, listen, don't judge me in respect of that. If you want to do that, you have every right to do that. But don't say that you're the only way, that I'm wrong and you're right. I think that the first day, which is Sunday, is the better day because Paul does talk about on the first day of the week, lay aside your tithe and offerings, and I'll come get it. And he says, when you gather together, as though they were doing on the first day. Now, why would they do that on the first day of the week? Well, we do have a precedent of the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ rose early in the morning on the first day. So as children of Christ, children of the resurrection, meaning we have new life in Christ, the church met on the first day of the week, not the last. Okay, so it was a different thing. And then another thought in the book of Acts, chapter 15, the Gentiles asked the Jerusalem council, what are we supposed to do? We are Gentiles, we are not Jewish. Do we keep the law? What are we supposed to obey or not? And they all voted, they had the Spirit of God, and they came back to the Jewish people, and they said that you are not to commit adultery, you're not to eat meat offered to idols, things strangled or blood. And that was it. They didn't say, you need to meet on the Sabbath and keep the Sabbath day. Because they weren't, as Gentiles, they didn't keep the Sabbath day, and they weren't told to do it. So all of that in mind, I say to my friends who are perhaps teaching, I think, a wrong teaching about the Sabbath day, please understand what the Scriptures do tell us and what they don't tell us. And so we'll be held accountable to that. So there it is. All right, so now let's go back to chapter 31 of Exodus. Now Moses is given the 2 tables of stone. So chapter 31 in verse 18. He gave unto Moses when he made the end of communing with him upon Mount Sinai, now watch, 2 tables of testimony, tables of stone, written with the finger of God. So these 2 tables of stone we know as the commandments. Now we know that in the Bible, the Old Testament, it's going to have hundreds of commandments. They were not all on those tables of stone. We believe it was the 10 commandments. Okay, probably 4 on one and 6 on the other. Not necessarily, we don't know how many were on, but I guess that. Because the first 4 commandments are a unit, and the last 6 are a unit. It would seem to be you'd put the 4 on one and the 6 on the other. The first 4 have to do with God, right? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make any graven images. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. Thou shalt honor the Sabbath day to keep it holy. So those 4 all do with God. Then honor your father and mother. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not covet. The last 6 are all to do with man. Well, that makes sense because when they asked Jesus, what are the great commandments? And there are 2. And all the law and the prophets hang on the 2. What does he say? Love God and love man. Love God is with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and man as yourself. So those 2 hang everything. So we divide the 10 commandments into 4 and the 6. So that's the way that is. So it's probably those 2 on there. And then it says it's written with the finger of God. Now think about that. The commandments are written by the finger of God. In let me show you something in 2 Corinthians. Now in 2 Corinthians, we are told about that writing of the Lord's commandments. In the New Testament as well. So 2 Corinthians 3:3. For as much as ye are manifestly declared to be the epistles of Christ, ministered by us, written not with ink, but with the Spirit of the living God, not in tables of stone, but in fleshly tables of our heart. He specifically talks about not the stone tablets. God wrote that with his finger, but now with his Spirit, he writes his commandments on our heart. Isn't that interesting? So the person that is a truly born-again Christian, he will love God's law. Psalm 1:1, right? Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the seat of the scornful, or standeth in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of God. And in his law doth he meditate day and night. How do you delight in the law? Nobody delights in being told what to do. But when you delight in the law of God, it's because it's in your heart. A born-again believer will delight in God's righteousness and his law. Why? Because it's written on his heart. That's how you know if a person's saved. Can you do these things? Well, I'm a Christian. I go to church. Okay. What do you feel about God's righteousness? Thou shalt not lie. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Well, how are you engaged in any of that stuff? Well, if they can say I can do that, it doesn't bother me, they're not saved. A person who is truly born again will delight in the law of God deep in their heart. Now, they may be callous, they may be sinful at a certain time, but they know God's written in their heart. Okay, so this is interesting. So now that's 2 Corinthians 3:3, which gives us a little bit of context to what God did in the New Testament. All right, now let's talk about the golden calf. Now, chapter 32. Now, having said all of this, right? Everything is, wow, you can imagine what Moses must be feeling. Wow, we are just bridging the gap. The great creator who created everything has now come down to man and gave us his law, and he wrote it with his own finger. And this tabernacle we're going to build, and he's going to build it by his Spirit through these men. And this is God on the earth. We have a sign that we are his through the Sabbath and all of this stuff. Moses must be just elated. We find out later his face is even shining. The glory of God is on him. Well, then right in the midst of that, Moses comes down off the mountain. After 40 days and 40 nights, and now what happens? Chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down out of the mount. Now, they did not know how long he was going to be there, but they knew surely if he was up there 40 days, he's dead. Nobody can go 40 days without water. So, when the people, at least I think, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down to the mount, the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said, now remember, Aaron and who else is leading them? Her. Doesn't say her here, but he's there. Her hair, he's there. He's there, her is there. Here we go. So out of the mouth the people gathered themselves together unto Aaron and said unto him, up, make us gods, plural, which shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we wot not what has become of him. They think he's dead. We don't know what happened to him. And we're here now, and there is a God that brought us here. They know that because they walked through the Red Sea. They saw the pillar of fire at night. They saw the pillar of cloud by day. They know there was a God that did all this to them. They even, earlier, when Moses initially gave them the covenant, the 10 Commandments, they all said, we will do it. So God's already talked to them earlier, right? Remember when God, go back to chapter, is it 22? Chapter 20. Back in chapter 20, he gives them the 10 Commandments in chapter 20. And in verse 18, all the people saw the thunderings and lightnings and the noise. They said this, and they basically said, all that God has said, we will do. So they've been given the 10 Commandments orally already. It wasn't in stone yet, but orally, what did he say? Well, the first thing he said was, thou shalt not make unto thee, no other gods. And then verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image. So they already told. do not do this. So what do? Make us a god. So while Moses is up there for 40 days getting the law and everything confirmed, they're violating the very thing they agreed that they would not do.
Where's their faith?
Right. And so Aaron then says to them in verse 2, Aaron said, break off the golden earrings which are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them unto me. And all the people brake off the golden earrings which were in their ears, and brought them unto Aaron. He received them at their hand, fashioned it with a graving tool, after he had made it a molten calf. So he melted the gold, he put a mold out there, molten, it was melted, and he made a calf. So he knew how to do it. He made the calf, he engraved it, and then they said, now notice the word they. So Aaron makes this thing, and they said. Who's the they? Well, it could be the people that said, up, make us gods, because Aaron doesn't necessarily be the one that says it. And so they said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which brought thee up by the land of Egypt. And when Aaron saw it, now notice what Aaron does. He built an altar before it. And Aaron made a proclamation and said, tomorrow is a feast to the Lord. Capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D. Jehovah. So what he just did was, the people wanted gods, small g, plural, to be who they follow from now on. Aaron complies, but then he realizes, what are we doing? And so rather than confront them and rebuke them, he builds an altar in front of it and says, hey, there's a feast day to the Lord Jehovah tomorrow. So he's taken the false gods he just made because of pressure, and then he brings it and tries to put context around it and say, we're going to worship the Lord. So they're idolatrous. He's trying to take the pagan thing and make it a Jewish thing or a worshiping thing. I'm telling you, this is what the devil does all the time. Taking the pagan form of worship or the pagan form of spirituality and combining it with true worship. We see it all the time. The Catholics do this all the time. It's done in music as well. Okay, so anyway, let's move on. So the people's excuse for their sin, again, Moses, you've been gone. So now Aaron is told by them, look at capital B, do this, and so he does it. He yields to the mob. Now, I would like to say, well, Aaron, you shouldn't have done that, right? You should have stood up and said, you guys are all in sin. I'm not going to do it. I rebuke you. We all say you should have done that. I hope I would have done that. But again, you're looking at a mob of people. So I'm not excusing him, but I'm just saying you can see the pressure he was under. And so he makes the golden calf. And this is not made by the Spirit of God, is it? Remember what God just said in chapter 31? All the furniture, all the golden stuff, everything. I'm going to put my spirit on Bezaleel, Aholiab, and Ahisamach. I'm going to give those guys the Spirit of God, and they're going to make this. What happened here? Aaron just, give me your earrings. And he fashioned this thing, made it. It wasn't made by God. Totally out of the flesh, totally by man. And so verse 6, they rose up early on the morrow, and they offered burnt offerings and brought peace offerings, and the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. It doesn't say they did this to the Lord. Now, the context was supposed to be for the Lord, but they simply offered these things. Notice what they offered. Burnt offerings, and what else? Peace. See, they're thinking, oh, Jehovah's going to love this. This is peace offerings. This is the peace offerings. They're hoping everything's going to be okay, right? And I tell you what, we justify our sin, don't we? Oh, even when we do spiritual things, it's just amazing. And yet it's not right with the Lord. Notice the phrase there, They brought peace off. They sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play. Take a look at capital E at the bottom of page 1. The culmination of sinfulness. The phrase rose up to play, this is a tasteful way to speak of gross immorality among the people. Their worship included eating, drinking, in the sense of drunkenness, and sexual immorality. The verb translated play is the word for sex play in the Hebrew. So these were drunken orgies, according to Cole. Less than 2 months before this, Israel heard the voice of God himself thunder from heaven, saying, do not do this very thing that you're doing. And so here these people, they have thrown off their clothing, and they're drunk, and they're having immorality right there, okay, like the pagans do. This is God's people. What do you think God's thinking about that? Now, realize Christ hasn't died yet. There's no grace. We don't live in the age of grace yet. You got a holy God, and all this just happened. What's God going to do? He's full of wrath. In his mind, he's going to destroy everybody, start over with one man, Moses. And that's exactly what he says. Look at verse 7. The Lord said to Moses, go get thee down, for the people which thou broughtest out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way which I commanded them. Say, wait a minute, they didn't get the law yet. It was written right up there in verse 18. No. He in chapter 22, in chapter 20, he already commanded, and they accepted. I commanded them. They have made them a molten calf, have worshipped it, have sacrificed thereunto, and said, these be thy gods, O Israel, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. The Lord said to Moses, I have seen this people, behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now, therefore, look what he says, leave me alone. Now, why does God say, Moses, let me alone? That my wrath may wax hot against them, that I may consume them, all of them. And I will make of you a great nation. I'll just start over with you. And now, by the way, technically, theoretically, God could have done that with Moses. Moses was a Levite. Therein lies the beginnings of all this stuff, the priesthood and all that. He could have started all over with Moses. He could have. But Moses, verse 11, besought the Lord and said, Lord, why doth thy wrath wax hot against thy people, which thou hast brought forth out of the land of Egypt with great power and with a mighty hand? And he rationalized and talks to God about why, therefore, should the Egyptians speak? For mischief did he bring them out, to slay them, and on. Verse 13, remember Abraham, remember Isaac and Israel. You swore by your own self and said, I will multiply your seed, and on and on. And then verse 14, the Lord repented. The idea of the Lord repenting is not the way we repent. It's the Lord decided differently of the evil which he thought to do to the people. So when he says, Moses, let me alone, what he means is, if you don't pray right now, this is what I'm going to do. But then God allows Moses, and as Moses intercedes for them, I'm about to get this now. Moses hadn't seen it. Moses is still up. Look, Moses, he's still there, and God says, verse 7, go get thee down. And he says, while Moses is in the mountain, this is what's going on down there. Moses has not seen with his eyes what's happened. When he does, he takes the tablets and he throws them. He hasn't seen it yet. He just has heard what God's telling him. And he knows God's upset in a righteous wrath, and Moses intercedes for them because he doesn't know what's going on. No, Lord. And so God says, okay. Then Moses, look at verse 15. Moses turned and went down. And the two tables were in his hand. The tables were written on both their sides. On the one side and on the other were they written. The tables were the work of God. The writing was the writing of God, written upon the tables. When Joshua heard the noise of the people as they shouted, now Joshua, we believe, was probably somewhere up in the mount waiting on it. He said unto Moses, there is a noise of war. He said, it is not the voice of them that should shout for mastery, or the voice of them that cry for being overcome, but the noise of them that sing. And it came to pass, as soon as he came nigh into the camp, that he saw. Moses saw the calf, the dancing, and Moses' anger waxed hot, just like God in that sense. He cast the tables out of his hands, and he brake them beneath the mount. Moses, by the way, has an anger problem. We know that because when he saw two Egyptians and two Israelites fighting, remember this? He killed, or at least they were fighting, he killed the Egyptian. Then we also know he gets upset at Israel later on. He takes his staff and he starts smiting the rock. So we have at least on, and then this occasion, 3 occasions where Moses is angry. Righteous indignation? I don't know if you call it that or not, maybe. But we know he's got that about him, right? And so I think I put something in there in the note there. Moses breaks the thing. So underneath that little picture shows Moses throwing him down. He had to deal with anger through much of his life. In anger he killed an Egyptian. In anger he broke the tablets by the finger of God. In anger he beat the rock, commanded him to speak. And so that's it. So now what is Moses going to do? Well, verse 20, he took the calf which they had made and burned it in the fire. Ground it to powder. Now, question, how do you grind gold to powder? That's been a question people have asked. You can do it, but could they have done it in the wilderness at the bottom of a mountain? They say Moses, who was learned in all the works of the Egyptians, the Bible says he had the knowledge and the wisdom of the Egyptians, so he probably did know how to do it. Aaron, for heaven's sake, knew how to make a molten calf. So Moses knew how to grind this to powder. And some people say, can you really grind gold to powder? Yeah, you can. You can have gold dust. Right? So he did that, and then he strawed it upon the water. Now there was a brook that was flowing out of Mount Sinai, and even today they have record. The Mount Sinai that we think is Mount Sinai has a brook. He put the water on it, and either put it in containers or what, because if you just put it in a brook, it's going to flow down. It seemed like they might have made containers, who knows. But he made them drink it. Okay, drinking gold. Now we know what happens if you drink aluminum, right? Or if you drink mercury. What if you drink gold? What happens then? Who knows? Maybe it's good for you. I don't know. I know colloidal silver is good for you, and I'm talking about.
You can eat gold.
You can eat gold. Okay. So it wasn't necessarily to make them sick, but what was the point here? So take a look under that capital C. He made the children of Israel drink it. And I got this from a different commentary. Not the whole body of them or every individual making of the calf. But the principal persons and such who had been the most active encouraging the making of the calf and the worshiping of it. This was done not only that they might entirely lose their gold and have no matter of profit by it, but that the idol, which is nothing, might be brought to nothing indeed, and that there might be no remains of it to be abused to superstitious uses. Can you imagine? Oh, this is the golden calf, 500 years ago, we still have it. No, it's gone. As well as to show them their folly in worshiping that which could not save itself, and by drinking it, whereby it passed, I like this, through them, became an excrement, to express the utmost abhorrence and detestation of it. There's no evidence of this thing anywhere. And so Moses then is going to confront Aaron. I'm going to give you another thought about that in a minute. But he confronts Aaron. And notice what Aaron says, just real quick. Aaron said, "Let not the anger of my Lord wax hot. Thou knowest the people, that they are set on mischief." It's the people's fault. They said, now notice what he said, "Make us gods which shall go before us, for as this Moses, the man that brought us up," we don't know what happened to him. Verse 24, "I said, if you have any gold, break it off." So they gave it me. Now notice the last phrase. "I cast it into the fire." Oh, and there came out this calf. Really?
Golly.
Think Moses is going to believe that? No. So he's basically saying, and by the way, there is still tradition that some people that has been thrown around in the past, that's what happened. He took the gold, threw it in the fire, and then the devil supernaturally calf came out. But that's not what it says in the other part of the same chapter. It says Aaron molded and he engraved it. So he's not telling the truth. And Moses knows he's not telling the truth because he gets on to him for that. He leaves out that fact. For instance, let me show you something real quick. I know I'm just about out of time, but Deuteronomy Chapter 9. Look at this. This is the sister telling of this. Moses recounts this in Deuteronomy, and he gives us a little bit of different take on it in Deuteronomy 9. Verse 9. Deuteronomy 9 and verse 9. When I was gone up into the mount to receive the tables of stone, even the tables of the covenant which the Lord made with you, I abode in the mount 40 days, 40 nights. I did not either drink bread or water. That's what I was getting from. The Lord delivered unto me 2 tables. With the finger of God it was written all these words. Verse 11, it came to pass at the end of those 40 days and nights, the Lord gave me 2 tables, even the tables of the covenant. The Lord said, arise, get thee down. And then verse 13, furthermore, the Lord spake unto me, saying, I've seen this people, let me alone, I'll blot their name out. So I turned, verse 15, verse 16, I looked, behold, you had sinned, and made you a molten calf. Verse 17, I took the 2 tables, cast them out, brake them, I fell down before the Lord as the first 40 days and 40 nights. I didn't eat bread, I didn't drink water because of your sin. And verse 19, I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure where the Lord was wroth against you to destroy you, but the Lord hearkened unto me that time also. And verse 20, the Lord was very angry with Aaron to have destroyed him, and I also prayed for Aaron the same time. See, God was very upset at Aaron. Okay, Aaron made this excuse, and we don't have it in Exodus 32, so go back there. But we do have it in Deuteronomy that if Moses hadn't fallen on his face before the Lord to intercede for Aaron, he would have been killed on the spot. But God listened to him. And so verse 25, Moses saw that the people were naked. Some say, well, were they naked physically? Possibly, because they had the thing going on. But also, remember Adam and Eve? They didn't even know they were naked until they did what? Until they sinned. And the shame. And these are the people of God. And by the way, when you are walking in righteousness, you're bold as a lion, right? You're confident. But whenever you're walking in sin, there's a shame. You almost feel like you're naked in yourself, in your sin. But when you are righteous and walking with the Lord, you feel the covering of grace on you very easily. So Moses, verse 26, said, who's on the Lord's side? And it's the children of Levi that gather themselves together. And verse 22, he says, slay every man his brother. So all of the people? No, only 3,000 people are slain. But how do you know who should be slain? I ask myself that question. How do I know you were the one that partake in this? You were the one and you were the one. Well, it's interesting. Look at the paragraph underneath capital B. As the 3,000 die, as also to show that they deserve the curse of God to enter into them. When they drank that gold, remember that? Gold water? As that water did, and be utterly destroyed. The Jewish writers, a couple of these guys, suppose this water with the powder of the golden calf in it had the same effect and was for the same use as the water of jealousy that made the bellies of those that drank it to swell. The Targum of Jonathan observes that whosoever gave any golden vessel towards the making of the calf, there was a sign appeared in his countenance. Ibn Ezra says just the same, but neither of them say what it was. But an ancient Latin poet, quoted by Selden, reports from the Hebrew writers that whoever were guilty of this idolatry, as soon as they drank of the water, their beards became yellow as gold, whereby the Levites knew who were guilty, slew them. But as this is quite fabulous, so I have not met with any Jewish writer, only an author of theirs of great antiquity and credit with them says that whosoever kissed the calf with his whole heart, his lips became golden. So it's not scriptural, but there's tradition that says those that kissed the calf, those that were part of all this, and Moses made them drink the water, gold came on their face. And that's how the Levites knew who to kill. And 3,000 were killed. Okay. And then lastly, real quick, Moses intercedes for Israel. He pleads for them in verse 30. You've sinned a great sin. And then the beautiful passage in verse 31, Moses returned and said, "Oh, this people have sinned a great sin, have made them gods of gold. Yet now if thou wilt forgive their sin," and notice that hyphen there. That is actually in the Hebrew. You see that? If thou wilt forgive their sin, then there's a line. It's almost as Moses cannot finish his thought. "And if not, blot me, I pray thee, out of the book which thou hast written. The Lord said, whoever sinned against me, that's the one I'm going to be blotting out. Now therefore lead the people in the place which I've spoken to thee. Mine angel will go before you." And the Lord plagued the people because they made the calf which Aaron made. So there was a plague. We don't know much about that part of it. But God says, "No, Moses, I want you to lead the people. And my angel will go before you." What a great promise. But I think it's wonderful when he says, if you will not forgive their sin, that spot. It's like Paul says, and I think I put Romans 9:3 down. Paul says the same thing. If you do not forgive the nation of Israel, then blot me out. Let me be cursed. A person that's truly in the same mindset of the Lord only wants the forgiveness and salvation of people. Okay? There's no anger. There's no resentment or bitterness. Nothing like that. And Moses definitely had the mind and heart of God to plead for his people. Okay? Terrible, terrible occasion, this golden calf. But it is a reminder to us as well what can happen when you allow your heart to stray from the Lord. Okay? Father, thank you for your grace to us. Thank you for the study. Bless us now in Jesus' name.